Our next speaker was suddenly propelled onto a strike committee when the Lindsey Oil Refinery construction workers walked out on strike. This action was a consequence of the construction companies involved attacking the wages, trying to undermine the wages and the conditions of the workers at that construction site, in this case by using an Italian subcontractor. This action took place in January this year, and then there was further action at the Lindsey Oil Refinery later in the year. First, before Keith Gibson speaks, we're going to have a very short film to introduce him.
Support this dispute, then we will take action. Yeah!
It was official to support these guys in this dispute.
Throughout Scotland, every site has come to a standstill.
10 years' time, and I'm going to be retired. But my son has got a lifetime in this industry. Now, it's not just about my son, it's about everybody else's son.
It was okay if you want to go and it was massive work here. I mean, we went down Heathrow Airport for 4 years, till T5, absolutely brilliant. Work alongside all the foreign workers, great. Now, we're in a recession, yeah, no. And now we can't get a job.
We fully understand and have every sympathy for the concerns of our fellow citizens who feel strongly about this matter. In relation to the activities of the company, so far as we are aware, they are operating lawfully.
The fight starts here at Lindsey. The fight against discrimination. The fight against victimisation. And the fight to put print on the table for your children.
Well, then our challenge goes, Brad.
For a Prime Minister and Mandelson to come out and say that these lads are breaking the law in fighting racism in this country, to me, is an absolute disgrace.
Recommendation from the strike committee is to reject their proposals to us. Can I have a show of hands on that?
Although we've won a victory on this project, we need to take it forward.
Introduction to this rally. I think we've seen this year the reawakening of the British working class against the onslaught of the bosses. We saw some marvellous victories this year, not only at Lindsey Oil Refinery, but at Vistian and Linmar, where those workers stood up against the attacks of the bosses. And it was by no accident that there were socialists involved in those disputes who were given not just an echo, but a way forward of how to defeat the bosses' attacks on those particular workers. The strikes of the construction workers at Lindsey Oil Refinery was supported by workers up and down this country. In the first strike, there was approximately 20 to 22 construction sites who was supporting that action. It was unofficial action. It wasn't official. It was unofficial action because the workers understood that they had to sweep those laws out of the way in defending the national agreement. Then particular strikes in January and February, and also in June and July, was a fight against the bosses. A fight against the bosses to try and break our national agreement. The strikes, I believe, in January and February was not racist, was not on a racist issue, was on pure and simple class issues. attacks on workers, where they'd seen the bosses and the government giving millions and millions of pounds to the banks to try and bail out their system. And also, at the same time, construction workers were seeing day in and day out workers losing their jobs, workers being thrown on the scrap heap. And I think despite all the media who played a conscious role in the January and February strikes to try and split construction workers away from the Italian workers and try, in order to support what the bosses was doing in their drive to break our national agreement. The solidarity in construction, which spread like wildfire across the country, was an absolute inspiration, not just to myself, who was dragged back, yes, kicking and screaming, to working class organisations and the working class struggle, but every single person who watched it in the media and they saw during day in, day out what workers could do. The power of the working class was shown quite clearly, not just at Lindsey Oil Refinery, but across the country in all the construction sites and also in the other battles that we've seen this year. The strikes earlier this year were unofficial. The anti-trade union laws were still there, what was put on the statute book by a Tory government. And we have to say quite clearly, comrades, that those laws were not taken away in the inception of a Labour government. The Labour government have kept them laws on the statute book. And what does that say to us? It says quite clearly to me that the so-called Labour Party are defending the ruling class of this country and are not prepared to defend working people. Our action in those strikes, in the January-February strike, was not directed at Italian workers like the media and unfortunately some sections of the left who went along with what the media portrayed regarding them strikes. That strike in January-February was a monumental victory for working class people. The bosses who refused to take on the skilled labour in this country in an attempt to divide one nationality against another, they wanted to employ Italian workers. We, through the Socialist Party, put a leaflet out to those Italian workers. We got a leaflet out on the badge that was hauled up in Grimsby to appeal to the Italian workers and to make them understand what we were striking against. And it was not against those particular workers. We moved to support and to try and defend our national agreement. But because of that